Imagine a world without the oceans. No shimmering waves, no vibrant marine life, no soothing breeze. Hard to picture, isn't it? Yet the way we humans are treating the oceans, we're heading toward a reality where this might no longer be a thought experiment. It could become our future. The oceans are vast, covering over 70% of our planet's surface. They regulate our climate, provide us with food and oxygen, and are home to a breathtaking array of life. But we often forget how deeply our lives are intertwined with the health of the oceans. The truth is, our actions are pushing the oceans to the brink. We are polluting them with plastic, depleting fish populations at an alarming rate, and altering their very chemistry through climate change. Today we'll take a deep dive into how we are exploiting the oceans and, more importantly, what we can do to reverse the damage. First on the list is overfishing. Imagine a bustling fish market brimming with a colorful variety of marine life. It paints a picture of abundance, doesn't it? But this image is misleading. Did you know that about 90% of the world's fish stocks are overfished or fully exploited? We are extracting fish from the oceans faster than they can replenish themselves. Think of it like this. Imagine a field of wildflowers. If you pick a few here and there, the field can recover. But if you come in with heavy machinery and plow through the entire field, there's nothing left for the bees, the butterflies, or the ecosystem itself. That's what's happening with industrial fishing. Industrial fishing methods such as bottom trawling and long lining are particularly destructive. Bottom trawling involves dragging massive nets across the ocean floor, scooping up everything in their path, including non-target species, and destroying delicate habitats. It's like clear-cutting a forest for a handful of trees. Long lining, on the other hand, uses miles-long fishing lines with thousands of baited hooks. These indiscriminate lines hook not just the intended fish, but also sharks, turtles, seabirds, and other marine life that get caught as bycatch. This bycatch often ends up discarded, dead or dying, back into the ocean, wasted and impacting the delicate balance of the ecosystem. The consequences of overfishing are far-reaching. It disrupts the delicate balance of marine ecosystems. When we remove too many fish from the ocean, it creates a chain reaction. Predators that rely on those fish for food start to decline, while prey species may overpopulate, throwing the entire ecosystem off balance. And it's not just marine life that suffers. Overfishing also jeopardizes the livelihood of millions of people who depend on fishing for survival. In many coastal communities around the world, fishing is not just an industry, it's a way of life that has sustained families for generations. As fish populations dwindle, these communities face economic hardship, food insecurity, and the loss of their cultural heritage. The decline of fish stocks forces fishermen to travel farther, fish for longer, and use more destructive methods to maintain their catch, pushing the oceans further into crisis. Next up is plastic pollution. We've all seen the heartbreaking images: a sea turtle entangled in a plastic bag, a seahorse clinging to a cotton swab. These images have become all too common, stark reminders of the devastating impact of our plastic addiction. Every minute, the equivalent of a garbage truck full of plastic ends up in the oceans. That's 8 million tons of plastic every year. Imagine a mountain of plastic waste stretching as far as the eye can see. Now imagine that mountain submerged beneath the waves, slowly poisoning the very lifeblood of our planet. That's the reality we face with plastic pollution. Plastic doesn't just magically disappear in the ocean, it breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces, eventually becoming microplastics. Tiny particles less than 5 millimeters in size. These microplastics are virtually invisible to the naked eye, making them even more insidious. Marine animals often mistake these microplastics for food. Imagine a sea turtle mistaking a plastic bag for a jellyfish, its favorite food, or a seabird feeding plastic fragments to its chicks. This ingestion of plastic can block their digestive tracts, leading to starvation, malnutrition, and even death. But the problem goes beyond individual animals. Microplastics can absorb toxins and pollutants from the surrounding water, acting like tiny poisonous sponges. These toxins then accumulate in the food chain, with larger animals consuming more and more contaminated prey. And guess who sits at the top of that food chain? Yes, us. We are consuming our own plastic waste, along with the cocktail of toxins it carries. The long-term health consequences of this are still unknown, but it's certainly not a recipe for a healthy planet. Now, let's talk about climate change. The biggest threat facing our planet and the oceans are on the front lines of this crisis. The oceans act as a giant heat sink, absorbing about a quarter of the carbon dioxide emissions we produce. While this absorption helps to buffer the planet from the full brunt of global warming, it comes at a cost. As the oceans absorb more carbon dioxide, the chemistry of the water changes. It becomes more acidic. This process, known as ocean acidification, is a silent killer, slowly but steadily impacting marine life, especially those with shells and skeletons made of calcium carbonate. Imagine a coral reef, once vibrant and teeming with life, now bleached and barren, its intricate structures crumbling under the pressure of acidified water. That's the devastating reality of ocean acidification. Coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, are home to a quarter of all marine species. As these reefs disappear, so too does the incredible biodiversity they support. And it doesn't stop there. Ocean acidification also affects the growth and reproduction of plankton, the tiny organisms that form the base of the marine food web. This disruption ripples through the entire ecosystem, impacting fish populations and ultimately, our own food security. But the impacts of climate change on the oceans go beyond acidification. As global temperatures rise, glaciers and ice caps melt at an accelerated rate, causing sea levels to rise. Coastal communities home to millions of people are facing an increasing threat from flooding and erosion. Imagine your home, your community, swallowed by the rising tides. This is the reality for many coastal communities, particularly in low-lying island nations, who are bearing the brunt of our inaction on climate change. The glistening surface of the ocean can be deceiving. Beneath the waves, a hidden threat lurks: oil spills. These environmental disasters, often caused by accidents during oil drilling or transportation, release vast quantities of crude oil into the marine environment, wreaking havoc on ecosystems and coastal communities. Imagine a thick, black slick spreading across the ocean surface, suffocating marine life. Oil spills poison everything they touch: fish, birds, mammals, and even the tiniest organisms that form the base of the food web. The 2010 Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf of Mexico stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of oil spills. Millions of barrels of oil gushed into the ocean, killing an estimated 100,000 birds, sea turtles, and marine mammals. But the damage goes beyond immediate casualties. Oil spills have long-term impacts on marine ecosystems, affecting reproduction, growth, and behavior of marine life for years, even decades, after the initial spill. And it's not just oil spills that are poisoning our oceans. Every day, a cocktail of chemicals from industrial waste, agricultural runoff, and sewage treatment plants finds its way into our waterways, eventually ending up in the ocean. These chemicals, including heavy metals, pesticides, and pharmaceuticals, contaminate marine life and accumulate in the food chain, posing a serious threat to both marine ecosystems and human health. We are quite literally poisoning the waters that sustain us. Our insatiable demand for resources is pushing us to exploit even the most remote and fragile environments on Earth, the deep sea. Deep sea mining, the extraction of minerals from the seabed, is touted as a solution to our growing demand for metals used in electronics and renewable energy technologies. But this solution comes at a steep price. The deep sea is home to unique and often poorly understood ecosystems, some of which have taken millennia to evolve. Deep sea mining operations disturb the seabed, destroying habitats and releasing plumes of sediment that can suffocate marine life. Imagine bulldozers plowing through a pristine forest, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. That's the impact deep sea mining has on these fragile ecosystems, and the damage isn't limited to the immediate mining site. Noise, light, and vibration from mining operations can disrupt marine life over vast distances, affecting migration patterns, communication, and breeding behaviors. Closer to shore, coastal development is another major threat to ocean health. Mangrove forests, often called the nurseries of the sea, are being cleared for tourism, aquaculture, and urban development. These forests provide vital habitat for fish, crabs, and other marine life, protect coastlines from erosion and storm surges, and act as carbon sinks, mitigating climate change. Coral reefs, already under pressure from climate change and pollution, are also facing destruction from coastal development. Sedimentation from construction, pollution from sewage and agricultural runoff, and physical damage from boats and divers are all taking a toll on these delicate ecosystems. We are literally squeezing the life out of our oceans, pushing them to the brink of collapse. It's time to ask ourselves, what will be left for future generations? It's not all doom and gloom, there are solutions and they start with us. We've seen the damage we're inflicting on our oceans, but we've also seen the resilience of nature, its ability to recover if given the chance. The time for action is now. Each of us has a role to play in protecting our oceans. By making conscious choices in our daily lives, supporting sustainable practices and raising awareness about ocean conservation, we can make a difference. The oceans are our life support system. Let's be the generation that turns the tide, that chooses to protect, not exploit. Together, we can ensure that future generations inherit healthy oceans, teeming with life, for generations to come.